Did the Jayhawks get the second coming of Ochai Agbaji? They get a commitment from Corbin Allen out of nearby Oak Park High School.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on? Derek Johnson here. This is Locked On Jayhawks. Thanks for making it your first listen every day. Thank you to everydayers catching each and every episode of the show. We are free and available anywhere you get your podcasts. Also on our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe to the show. And on this bonus episode of Locked On Jayhawks, Corbin Allen, a three-star recruit from Oak Park High School, same school as Ochai Agbaji, is going to be joining the Jayhawks for this upcoming season. So we'll break down what it means for KU, what it means for the current and future outlook of the roster, and what he brings to the table. Is he somebody to watch maybe in the long term, similar to how Ochai Agbaji was, although Ochai actually ended up being somebody to watch in the near term as well. So we're going to start right there as he is putting the Corbin Allen in Allen Fieldhouse. But anyway, Corbin Allen is a three-star local recruit from the high school ranks. Oak Park High School, which is in the Kansas City area, and he's actually been coached by Sherron Collins, former KU star All-American guard, right? I think they won a state title, and Corbin Allen broke Ochai Agbaji, because this is where Ochai went as well, his high school scoring record over the course of a career. He was playing varsity ball for 4 years and was able to surpass what Ochai did. It's really cool there. So he ends up picking KU, three-star recruit. He chose Kansas over offers from Ball State, Murray State, North Dakota State, Lamar, UMKC, and he was actually previously committed to San Diego. So basically just a bunch of like mid-majors, ends up coming to Kansas. Now, Kansas has 14 scholarship players. In future years after this one, they'll have 15 scholarship players, and there are no walk-ons anymore. So you're basically looking to fill out the end of your roster with developmental players, with local players that can, like Corbin Allen, is good enough to not be a walk-on. I'm not trying to insinuate that. But the point being of like, without having walk-ons anymore, you need players on your team who are going to be willing to develop, who are going to be willing to practice hard against other guys to try to earn their spot. And that's the idea with Corbin Allen, that he can be a good practice player for you, that he can be somebody who you hope develops into something much more than that, and you get a bit of the local flavor here for what was a very talented high school kid in the nearby area. So I'm not exactly sure how tall he is, because 24/7 Sports lists him at 6'4", and Rivals lists him at 6'6". So, those are very different in terms of what he ends up being, but he's an 84 rated three-star at 24/7. I think you view him as kind of a shooting guard 3 type, but he played a little bit of point guard, played really everywhere for Oak Park and in winning the state title. Now, this leaves Kansas with 3 remaining scholarships, 11 players on scholarship at this point in time. I think you look at Corbin Allen and Noah Shelby, and maybe even Jamari McDowell you would put here too, maybe Smeeze Calderon in year one. That's one that can kind of go either way, but if he needs year development, as guys who you're going to look to develop for the long term, that, if any of them end up being rotation players, it means that they did really well in the offseason, but right now that's maybe not the expectation. And you look at the final 3 scholarships the KU has, they still need to get that one more splash play, right? A starter level player. They still need a backup big man, and then they need another backup player that you feel is in the rotation. And if that, we had an episode on Boogie Fland. Thank you to everydayers who already caught that one. If you haven't, go out and check it out. Deep dive on Boogie Fland. And if there's some interest with KU, let's say they bring on a Boogie Fland, then that third scholarship probably goes to a bench wing. Versus if they bring on a Darian Williams or some other starting wing, maybe that third scholarship goes to a bench guard. So it kind of depends how you want to do it. But what exactly is Corbin Allen bringing to the table? What is his scouting report? How does he fit in with KU both this year and in the future? We get to that next on Locked On Jayhawks. This episode of the show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and, wonder, hey, what's going on in there? Where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. You stop just managing your money and start building wealth. They have easy collaboration too, where managing your money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year with Monarch Money. Thanks for joining us on this bonus episode of the show. Don't forget you can check out that Boogie Fland deep dive episode, or the episode where we talked about Dame Sarr possibly going to Duke, or at least just not going to Kansas at this point in time. And you can also check out Locked On College Basketball or Locked On College Football for your second listen every day. All right, so what exactly is Corbin Allen bringing to the table? So again, he played for Oak Park High School, and I mean, production from the word go. He was putting up big numbers, honestly similar to his varsity numbers. Not quite as good, but very even close. As soon as he was a freshman. So like very productive player from the word go there. But this last season at Oak Park, he averaged 16.5 points, 8.7 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 2.5 steals, and 0.6 blocks per game in his fourth year of varsity ball. Of course, it's always good to remember that, you know, in high school ranks in the nearby area, no shot clocks, and also shorter games, 4 8-minute quarters. So those numbers look even better if it were 40-minute games, right? He shot 51% from the field, so very good there. Only 30% from three, so, you know, not a bad number, but not like the best number either. Only 62% on free throws, so not the best number there either. And that is, as we talk about, because it's going to be obvious that there's going to be the comparisons with Ochai Agbaji, and I know I opened the show like that. That's kind of like the talk there. I don't think that's a good comparison. A couple reasons. Even though Ochai was like an under-recruited player, he was a 3-star recruit, right? I still want to say he finished like around the top 250, something like that in the rankings. He was still like relatively ranked a little higher. And the two big differences here with Ochai and Corbin Allen. So Ochai obviously was, I think Ochai was a better shooter than Corbin Allen. Again, 30% from three, 62 from the free throw line. Better shooting from Ochai. And that obviously ended up being a huge skill for him at the very end, but he got better at it. But Ochai was always showed flashes of being a three-point shooter. His senior year, it was more consistent. The other big thing is the athleticism. I think Corbin Allen's a solid athlete. Ochai Agbaji was like and I don't think people knew how good of an athlete he was because he would have been higher than a 3-star recruit. But like Ochai Agbaji was, like, I mean, look at it. He's in the NBA. He's an NBA level athlete, and he's like a good NBA athlete. You know what I mean? So like, there's another level of athleticism from being a solid athlete, from being a good high school athlete, to being an NBA level athlete, I guess is kind of the point. So I'm not going to, you know, put the expectation on Corbin Allen that just because he's a 3-star recruit from Oak Park, that it's going to be Ochai all over again. Honestly, I think the better possible scenario here is look at a guy like Zeke Mayo. Now, Zeke Mayo in Corbin Allen's games, very, very different, right? Because Zeke Mayo was a 3-point shooter. He's more of a point guard ball handler, whereas with Corbin Allen, I think it's ideally more of a wing for KU, and he's more of a driver, I think, than Zeke, who again is more of a shooter. But just in terms of being a guy who, okay, Zeke Mayo goes to South Dakota State. Hey, Corbin Allen had an offer from North Dakota State and a bunch of other, like, you know, mid-major schools. The idea of a local kid who goes to a mid-major, does really well for their first 2 or 3 years, and then enters the portal, and then you make the reunion happen when they are ready to be at that level. And Zeke Mayo ends up having a great year for KU. He starts, he, you know, puts up big numbers, yada, yada, yada. He's one of the best players on the team. Maybe you can just have that with Corbin Allen just in-house, right? Like, if Corbin Allen can follow the Zeke Mayo career path, developmental path, just without, and maybe it's required to play more, I don't know, but then maybe by the time he's a junior, senior, like when Zeke Mayo would have been ready to come to Kansas, you know, maybe that's when it hits for Corbin Allen. So I think that's the path that you're hoping could possibly happen here. But at the very least, if you just have a end of rotation player who's happy in that role and, you know, is a local kid, like, that's not the worst thing in the world either. So anyway, more on Corbin Allen's game. Very decorated local prospect, 4-time first team all conference pick, 4-time first team all district, 3-time first team all state, and 1-time conference player of the year. A great family lineage. His mom played at Florida State. His dad played at Park University, NAIA school in the Kansas City area. His sisters and brother played at Central Missouri, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and Cowley County Community College, respectively. So, like, they're ballers in the family, right? And so watching some of the highlights, I really liked his ability to drive. That seemed like the best part of his game, just based on the highlights I saw, right? That's not always indicative of everything, but seemed to be a fearless driver who's really good at getting in the teeth of the defense. And like, I don't know that he's the fastest player in the world. He had good speed, but again, against the competition, how much that can relate to Kansas, I don't know. The best thing I can say about his speed, though, is he had a really good ability to, it's like some cars can go 200 miles per hour, others can go 100, but maybe one car can get from 0 to 60 a little faster than another that can go 20 miles per hour faster at the top speed. And so maybe the top speed isn't as much as some of the players on KU for Corbin Allen, but his ability to go from 0 to 60, I think, is really good and will be at a very high level. He also had the ability to post up on smaller guards if they're guarding him, which I like to see in his game a little bit there. He also seemed like somebody who did a really good job of getting defenders on their heels. He has a clean looking shot and seemed comfortable kind of spotting up from the corner. Even for a guy who obviously was the best player on his team, there are possessions where he's off ball, he's in the corner, and he's able to make a play out of it. And you like to see that because now he's going to go from being the best player on his team to not being the best player on his team at Kansas. And you have to find a way to kind of fit in. And clearly a versatile player. He rebounds, almost 9 rebounds per game. He plays hard on both ends of the floor. And so, by all accounts, seems to be, a good kid and a hard worker. Like, that's going to endear you with the coaching staff. So what is his current fit? What is his future fit with the team? Let's get to that next. Thanks for joining us on this bonus episode of Locked On Jayhawks. So how does Corbin Allen fit in? Again, 11 scholarship players now on the roster. I think you look at the rotation now if you're Kansas. No particular order here. Darren Peterson, Elmarco Jackson, Melvin Council, Jaden Dawson, Trey White, Flory Badunga, and then backup big man, which I think right now would be Bryson Tiller. That gives you 7 guys. I think ideally it's an 8-man rotation. So maybe it's that other starter level player that you add if you just want to say one more there. And then the 9th man is one of the other scholarship players you add that's kind of that Diggy Coit, Jalen Coleman Lance role, okay? So that's your rotation. From there, you're looking at Jamari McDowell, Samis Calderon, Noah Shelby, and now Corbin Allen as guys who can either play spot minutes, can get in if the score is big, can provide hard work and hustle for you in practice and try to give good looks for you and make the team better, and can develop so that down the road they can be key players. And so that's the interesting part of this with Corbin Allen to me. It's the future fit. Again, go back to the idea. If Kansas would have taken Zeke Mayo right out of high school, does he develop the same way as he did from playing all that that he got to play at South Dakota State? I don't know. That's a question that we'll never know, and where the kind of chicken and egg is in terms of development with stuff like that. But in theory, if Corbin Allen can be on that path, then you could be like, okay, maybe by the time you're a junior, Corbin Allen could be a rotation player for Kansas. And we saw Zeke Mayo start as a senior, so I'm not going to rule it out. Certainly not. I don't know that you go into this expecting that. Like, I don't know that you want to put the bar that high. But if you do end up with that, like, that's not the worst thing in the world for something like that to happen. And who knows, maybe he will surprise people once he gets to campus and some of the things that he can provide and some of the things that he can do. This is, to me, a perfect pickup for what you're trying to accomplish. Your 4 scholarships left. Like I said, a big swing, a Jalen Coleman Lands role, and a backup big, and then the 4th one, you want a developmental player. What better than a developmental player from the nearby area who seems to be a good all-around player and a hard worker? Like, works perfectly for me. So maybe he'll become something, maybe he won't, but it's a swing you take at the end of your roster, and you see where the chips lie. And at the very least, like, seems like probably somebody who's not going to be a huge NIL ad that's going to affect your NIL budget for bringing in a Darian Williams or one of these other players. So good addition here, and cool to see. And we'll see if Corbin Allen can develop into, something more in the next inline local player that has we hear the stories every game that, like, wow, this kid was only this star recruit and he got developed into the program, and maybe that's who he'll be, right? Maybe that's who he'll be, and that'd be pretty cool if it was. But either way, like the addition at the end of the roster for KU. That'll do it for this bonus episode of Locked On Jayhawks. You can find our show anywhere you get your podcasts, including on our YouTube page. See you next time, and don't forget to check out our Boogie Fland episode right here on LOJ.